notice of this public work session and executive meeting setting forth time, date, and location has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act on January 10th, 2022 by prominently posting a copy on the bulletin board in the lobby of the offices of the Board of Education, which is a public place reserved for such announcements, transmitting a copy of this notice to the record, the Wayne Today, tapintowayne.net, the municipal clerk, and the district website. Thank you. Reconvene.
Second.
We will have the flag salute, please, followed by a moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to call roll, please. Mr. Moffett?
Mr. Duffy? Present. Mr. Fatal?
Here.
Mr. Kazan?
Here.
Mrs. Kumar?
Here.
Mr. Pavlak?
Here.
Mr. Prasakos?
Present.
Mrs. Futta?
Here.
And Mrs. Winton?
Here. Dr. Toback?
So school safety and security is on the minds of many in the wake of the shootings in Texas last week. So our district continues to focus on issues of safety and security. And we recognize that the primary election being held on June 7th represents an immediate and troubling situation for many of our parents. A few weeks ago, the Township, the Board of Education, and the Board of Elections worked to reduce the number of schools in use as polling locations for elections due to security reasons. The Board of Education has no legal authority to prevent the schools from being used as polling locations. As has been the case for many years, a number of our schools are being used as polling locations next week for the primary election. Further complicating the safety and security concern is the fact that there is a new law in New Jersey that prohibits police officers within 100 feet of a polling location unless responding to an emergency call. The need for security at polling locations is very different from the needs at schools. It's an unconscionable act to leave a school building unprotected in this way. As a result of this concern, I wrote to our Executive County Superintendent identifying the problem and recognizing that we no longer have the option of using an emergency day to close school. The least disruptive course of action would be to allow for a virtual day of instruction on June 7th, recognizing that it would be prohibited by law from properly protecting our students and staff at the schools that are being used as polling locations. Whether or not this is a allowable option has not yet been officially determined, although we do know the issue will be addressed tomorrow. Parents should be prepared for the possibility of June 7th being a virtual instructional day because there's no other way to overcome the security issues for students and staff. Also last week I wrote to the community that we were working with Wayne Township and the Wayne Police Department to develop a plan to enhance police presence in our schools. I want to thank Mayor Vigano, Chief McNiff, and Township Business Administrator Crip Teachin for jumping on board and supporting the idea and providing the Board of Education with written proposals that the board would be able to act upon at our next meeting. Approved, we would have officers in each of our schools. We have good news on the COVID front, and at this point our numbers are showing a steady decrease. On Wednesday we were down to only 41 cases among all of our students and staff. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the revised comprehensive health and PE standards. Much has been made of the revised health and PE standards. The Board of Education heard a number of public comments during the course of the past few meetings. Previously, we advised the community that this work would move ahead following the process that we typically follow for all of our curriculum work. Some have raised the issue about how parents would be informed and how they could view the curriculum. So today's update involves information about the timeline for completion of this curriculum work and how parents and stakeholders will be able to provide input and feedback. The revised health and PE standards will include new lessons only in grades 2, 5, and 8, and with the existing puberty lesson remaining in grade 4. These new lessons will be identified or constructed internally by our teachers and administrators during the summer months, Completed work will be reviewed by the Education Committee in September as part of our regular process. After this, all lessons addressing those standards causing concern will be posted online for parents to review and share input. There will also be a simple opt-out option that will be offered. Grades 2 and 5 lessons will be included in the last trimester of the school year. For grade 8, the instructional lessons would be embedded in the last week of the quarter when a student is participating in the health class cycle. We believe this schedule provides ample opportunity for parents to review new lessons in advance, share feedback, and opt out of any instructional lessons that they would not like their children to participate in at school. A simple form will be generated with a QR code for easy access to view the lessons, provide feedback, and request an opt-out option when desired. Quick update from the business office. The business office completed the enormous task of the medical and prescription transition to the New Jersey Health Benefits Program, with all enrollment applications processed, extending into the Memorial Day weekend. We would like to thank business office staff for all their hard work over the weekend to ensure that all of our employee applications were reviewed and approved by the state, required by the first day of June. Their efforts included personalized emails, phone calls, and text messages. The business office will next focus on enrolling employees in the new vision and enhanced dental benefits. Employees can expect communication about the process in the coming week. Also, an update from the facilities department. As many of us experienced significant rainfall this past Friday, some of our school buildings experienced flooding due to the amount of water that fell over a very short period of time. Some reports indicated 2 inches of rain in Wayne over a 45-minute period. In order to get our schools back up, clean and dry, members of the facilities department worked over the weekend, but all schools were ready to go, and want to take a moment to recognize their efforts. At the community forum, I just wanted to mention that I was under quarantine and unable to attend the community forum this year, but I wanted to take a moment to thank Mayor Vigano for partnering with the district again on this important event, as well as the Wayne Education Association, the Wayne Alliance, and the Wayne Police Department for their ongoing support. It's truly a community event that makes a difference for the families of Wayne. Also, I mentioned at the last meeting, a reminder to all parents that the Wayne Education Foundation is hosting its annual summer camp starting on July 5th, and there are a number of fun and exciting educational programs available. Finally, on the topic of safety, I'd like to point out Public Works Session School Resource Item Q, which is an agreement between Wayne Township and the Board of Education for the construction of a sidewalk along Verdun Avenue from the light at Wayne Hills along the reservoir and down to the shopping center. Passaic County Water Authority is providing the land, the township is building the sidewalk, and the school district will maintain the sidewalk. The project has been debated for years, but now our students will be able to safely get back and forth directly to the shopping center area, and in some cases to their parked cars. So even though this has been in the works for many years, we're now able to move ahead with this project. So it's a very exciting development and very good news for our students at Wayne Hills who will be able to make their way back and forth in a much safer way. So as far as the HIV report goes, I'm reporting the following data related to harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents in the Wayne Township Public Schools. There were 8 incidents investigated since my last report. 3 of those cases were deemed to meet criteria of an actual HIV incident. That was my report. Now we're on to our presentation. Okay? So what we'd like to do is turn things over to Mrs. Reichman, who is going to share with the Board of Ed the results of her USAC monitor.
So we underwent the QSAC process again this year during, in the fall. We were tasked with an October 15th deadline during probably the busiest time in history that I've ever been here, coming back to school and still dealing with the challenges of the pandemic. But we did meet our deadline, unlike many other districts, and they actually did not come in until the spring to go through everything. For any of you who are not familiar, QSAC stands for New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, and it's the monitoring and evaluation system that demonstrates compliance in a number of areas. This is a letter that was presented to us. I know it's hard to see, but it shows our scores in each area, and I broke it down over here. So for instruction and programming, we received a perfect score for all of our curriculum documents. They have to be aligned with New Jersey Student Learning Standards. It's also based on test scores that are automatically populated in. We did not have, so realize this took place in October and it was a look back at previous years. We did not have NJLC testing during COVID. So our old scores were populated in. We were asked to put together a statement to show how our students fared on the Start Strong assessments. we needed to show that we had a multi-tiered intervention system in place, which we did. And based on, you may remember this from a previous report, but based on our old test scores, we had subgroup categories who met proficiency and other subgroup categories that do not meet full proficiency. So we won't know until the tests from this spring comes back next fall. I'll be making a presentation if any of that has changed. Based on our localized benchmark data, we've done a really good job of catching students up to speed and putting targeted instruction in place. The fiscal management, governance, and operations, just a few points that were lost there. Most of this was due to the pandemic. We were not able to hold our non-public meetings in person. All the communication was done through email, Google Meets. It was something that we had no control over. We weren't in person all the time. They weren't in person all the time. We had a document that was sent over by mail carrier because we were not in person, and all of our clerical who help with these reports didn't have access to the online submissions. So these are things that were out of our control, pandemic related. Overall, the passing score is 80%, so we're really proud of the work that we did. Again, during one of the hardest times opening school, we had our clerical staff, our business office, our personnel office, working round the clock, putting in a lot of extra hours to compile all these documents. And Dr. Chobak and I spent an entire day with the state. They were very thorough. They take it very seriously, but we did an excellent job. That concludes the report. Any questions? Yes.
Do those scores consolidate into one so that we have one overall score, or it's just for...
No, you just have to meet 80% proficiency in each area.
We got a 94. The board. Just saying.
Yeah.
must have answered that.
You were,
Thank you.
Okay,
among others.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Moffett, revisions to agenda items, please.
There's two items tonight on the revisions. Emergent section X, school resource legal. The first is X1, approval of Wayne Township Administrators Association memorandum of agreement and salary guides. That reads, now therefore be resolved that the Wayne Township Board of Education approves and ratifies the memorandum of agreement dated April 28, 2022, and salary guides for successor agreement between the Wayne Township Administrators Association and the Wayne Township Board of Education, dated July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2026, and authorizes the President of the Board of Education to execute the new collective negotiations agreement reflecting this memorandum of agreement and salary schedule as discussed in executive session. Second item added tonight is under X2, again, the same area, legal. So X2 is approval of HIP determination, and the recommended action reads as follows. Resolve that the board affirms the superintendent's decision on HIP case number 124/2021-2022 following an appeal as required by NJSA 18A 37-15 parentheses B parentheses 6 parentheses E. That concludes the revisions to tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Moffett. Okay. This portion of the meeting is open to citizens for comment on agenda items only. Residents are to state their names, addresses, and subject matter. Comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person. Members of the public are discouraged from speaking negatively about an employee or a student. The board bears no responsibility for comments made by the public. Comments regarding employees or students cannot be legally responded to by the board. Other comments may be responded to tonight or at subsequent meetings under old business. Thank you.
I'll move.
Second.
There's no microphone
No.
for the speakers. My name is Jim Frieswick. I reside at 1212 Summer Hill Road in Wayne. I'm here to speak about an item on tonight's agenda. It's item U8, approval of policy 0167, public participation in board meetings, first reading for consideration. I see there's a proposal here to revise the policy regarding the public comment portions of board meetings. The proposal is to limit the first public portion, which is for people to comment on agenda items only, to 30 minutes. The proposal is to limit the second public portion session at which the public can speak on any topic to 90 minutes. I think that's a mistake. I don't think there should be a limit imposed, a time limit imposed on either public session. There never has been such a limit imposed, and frankly, I don't see the rational basis for allotting 90 minutes to one session and only 30 minutes to the other. And I don't think it's a wise decision to put any kind of limit on either portion of the meeting. This proposal also would limit participants at the first public portion to 3 minutes each. And it would limit people who are speaking in the second public portion to 5 minutes each. This too is not a good idea because in the past, people have been allowed to speak twice during each portion. First for 3 minutes, and then for another 3 minutes after everyone else has spoken. At each session, for a total of 12 minutes at a meeting, 6 minutes at each session. So now you're reducing it to a total of 8 minutes. I have a different proposal that I think you should consider. My proposal is, first of all, no time limit on either session. Second, allow each member of the public to speak for 5 minutes initially at each session. And then after everyone else has spoken, give each person an additional 2 minutes, so that each person would have 7 minutes to speak at each public portion.
Thank you. That's your
Thank
time,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Maria DeLuca-Franzo, Wayne resident. I just wanted to thank the administration for all of their hard work, and I know Dr. Tovak, you mentioned that the Berdan sidewalk project is underway, and I spoke very passionately at the town council meeting, and hopefully that helped kickstart it. That being said, if you have any kind of ETA on that, if you're able to speak about any timeframes or ETAs when that will actually be implemented, as a mom with a student in Wayne Hills, is something I'm interested in. So thank you very much.
So nobody else at the podium, Madam President, move to close. Second.
Thank you. We have committee reports this evening. Mr. Duffy, thank you.
Good evening. The tonight's meeting was attended by myself, Mr. Kosakis, and Mr. Bouchard for the Technology and Safety Committee. We discussed the Chromebook updates. The kids will have it sporadically, so they don't have to give it back every year. Also, the insurance to go on each of the Chromebooks or iPads, so that our students that take after myself would break them, so they couldn't continue not to do their work. So now we're done. The web content accessibility guidelines is a committee that's been formed for that. There were multiple conversations about our safety and security issues as far as, only go as far as vestibules and some cameras that are being placed in schools throughout. I do want to say that since the tragedy at Parkland, which was my first year on the board, I was on this committee that first time. This committee has been proactive to our safety and security measures since that time. There was a major incident when I came on, and really I can't say this. It's been 3 years since I've been on this committee and seen what has transpired in the 2 years that I was not on this committee is very assuring. That being said, that concludes my committee report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Guzan, Finance?
Thank you, Madam President. Finance Committee met this evening with myself, Mr. Fatal, and we had a virtual appearance by Mr. Pavlak, administrators Mr. Moffett and Ms. Leidig. We reviewed the agenda items, went over financial reports and transfers. We discussed vended meals, the contracts that are on tonight's agenda, an NSIG grant, which is annual. This year we were entitled to about $43,000, and the money goes to anything security related, so that's going to be spent on some internal doors, I believe. We then discussed the PCIA purchase lease agreement, which is, I believe, $1.5 million this year. We discussed the district insurance coverage, which we're still waiting for some fine tuning on. And then we talked about the annual solicitations, some of which was an executive discussion. We went out for bid on carding, which is garbage, and an essential bid to have awarded. So that's out for now and due by June 22nd. We've applied for $5.8 million in extraordinary aid, hoping to get at least 5.2, much of which could end up in our reserves. We discussed all of the work, as Dr. Toback mentioned, that's been done to transfer 1,300 employees from many insurance plans to one. That was a monumental task taken on by our department internally for the first time, because under the state rules, it has to be done by the district and not by a broker. So that was a big job for them, and they worked over the holiday weekend, and we thank them for their efforts. We have the final county approval on our 2022-2023 budget, and all is well there. It's open for May 23rd, or it was opened on May 23rd, which means the schools can start ordering things for next year that take a while to arrive. And last but certainly not least, our business office received our Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting once again. There will be a press release coming out soon, and we congratulate them. And everyone in their department. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mrs. Kumar, you have 2 reports for us this evening.
Yes. I'll start with the CPAG meeting report. So the CPAG committee met last Tuesday to discuss basically their end of year events that had happened. They're planning one more event hopefully over the summer with the YMCA to invite all of the community. And they are looking towards next year and shared lots of resources about different camps and other things, and shared with each other what to do over the summer with students who have special needs. So that's concludes my report on that CPAG meeting. And then the Education Committee met tonight with Ms. Putta, Ms. Wentek, myself, and Ms. Reichman. We discussed our May 5th agenda, my May 5th committee minutes, and we went over 2 policies. We went over P5440, honoring pupil achievement, and P5460, high school graduation. The high school graduation, we just updated it with was updated with new requirements that have been going on, along with adding a language fluency certificate to those students who do complete that course. And we went over retention requests along with an update on the new health and PE standards, which Dr. Kovac went over in his report. And we discussed a little bit about the weighted grading committee meeting, which will be happening June 9th. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Action on agenda.
I'll move the agenda, Madam President, in its entirety.
Second.
Roll call.
I have Mrs. Kazan motion.
Discussion.
He stepped up.
Yes, Mrs. Wyndham. Discussion.
I would like a motion to table U emergent policy item 5 and item 6 referred to back to the education committee for further tweaking. That is the hazing and the bias policy. There's some language that would benefit if we clarified some items.
I'll second.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The motion on the table is to refer those two items back to committee. So, Mr. Moffett, call roll on that.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mrs. Kazan,
Yes.
Mrs. Kumar,
Yes.
Mr. Pavlak,
Yes.
Mr. Prasakos,
No on L2? Yes.
We're voting on
Oh,
her.
okay, no,
sorry.
sorry.
That's what, okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, yes.
Referring back to committee.
Tabling, Mrs. Wyndham. Mrs. Wyndham,
Yes.
yes on the motion for table. Mr. Fatah
I'll abstain.
and Mrs. Putter.
Yes.
Tabling motion carries.
Now,
Back to the main motion.
Main motion.
Yes, so discussion on the main motion. so.
yes, discussion on any other agenda item?
Yeah, so on L2, I appreciate all the work that the teachers did and the committee that worked on the summer reading list. I do believe summer reading is very important. But, you know, I had a few issues. You know, I'm not going to pretend that I'm an educator, but, you know, I did read a good number of books here, and I was a student in the past. I do have an issue with, you know, some of the graphic novels. I have an issue with, you know, Of Mice and Men and Scarlet Letter being for honors classes. I read Scarlet Letter in 7th grade, and here, the 10th grade honors classes are taking Scarlet Letter, which, you know, I feel like we should challenge our students and do better. You know, The Invisible Man and Beloved, you know, those are all, I couldn't believe that these were all for honors classes. I thought they should be with the general public. So that's the reason I would vote no on L2 to the summary. So just bring it out there.
Any other comments on agenda items?
I just want to make it clear again, that's a PWS item.
Yes.
Okay, so,
So, we're voting then to move the agenda.
and the whole,
Yes, this vote tonight only moves that
Yeah.
item to the next meeting,
Yeah.
so voting no on it tonight is moot.
Yeah,
You voted on no again next meeting.
correct. Yes.
Thank you. So, we have a motion to move the agenda
Yes.
as a whole.
Yep.
Roll call.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mrs. Kazan,
Yes.
Mrs. Kumar,
Yes, and I just did want to say I'm very happy about the revamped reading program. It's easier to read and easier to choose the books in the program, and there's actually a discussion portion, which is very much missing the past few years. And as these students are reading these books over the summer, some of the harder language I think is just better addressed during the school year. So some of these books do appear just during the school year, not during the summer.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Windy, yes.
As long as it's.
Mr. Patlack? Yes. Mr. Prasakos?
Yeah, no on L2, yes on the others.
Mrs. Wente?
Yes.
Mr. Fatal?
Yes.
And Mrs. Pano?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. This portion of the meeting is open to citizens for comment on any topic. Residents are to state their names, addresses, and subject matter. Comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person. Members of the public are discouraged from speaking negatively about an employer or student. The board bears no responsibility for comments made by the public. Comments regarding employees or students cannot be legally responded to by the board. Other comments may be responded to tonight or in subsequent meetings under old business. Thank you. Have a mover? I'll move.
Second.
Thank you.
Madam President, the speaker here has complained the last time he was up at the Anthony Wayne Middle School that nobody looked him in the eye, and he complained and whined on social media. So I'm going.
Excuse me,
Excuse
that was a
me.
lie.
Point of order.
That's a personal attack.
Mr. President.
And I was never at a school meeting in Anthony Wayne, Mr. Brazakos. And
Excuse me,
I know
I'm
that you-
sorry.
Yeah, please, if everyone could just
Hold on.
let the board
Charge
president.
of the meeting comes back to me, please. I'm sorry. People can come up and speak at the podium, and there's no back and forth, Mr. Prasakos.
No, I understand. I'm just going to tell you that I will offer him the opportunity to stand right next to the podium so I can look him in the eye, so he doesn't complain the next time that I was.
Mr. Prasakos,
Yeah.
And
please.
we should refrain from commenting prior to.
Yes, please.
We have an opportunity to speak after this.
Out of order. Thank you.
well, I will act like a gentleman here tonight, and I come here tonight wearing 3 different hats. The first hat is as a proud member of our community to congratulate our superintendent upon being named Superintendent of the Year. I want to bring that specifically to the attention. It has been a very difficult period of time the past 2 years for our superintendent and our school district as a whole. I think he rose to the challenge and handled it remarkably. The second hat I'm here with today is as a messenger to just let the board know, and perhaps it can be disseminated to the school community. The Wayne Democratic Club is having a meeting on June 28th, and at 7:30 p.m. on that night in the library, we will be having a presentation by Mothers Demands Action. They will be doing their presentation.
Sir, I'm sorry. The podium is not to be used for community announcements.
Okay,
It's
no
to
problem.
make
I
Comments
just,
on
not a
what's
problem.
going on in the educational community.
Okay.
Thank you.
The third reason I'm here tonight is as a concerned grandparent. I want you all to remember the number 26. It's an important number. The number 26 is the number of organizations currently active in the state of New Jersey being funded by alt-right and dark money that are attacking school boards and attempting to elect alt-right candidates in our state in order to take control over our public schools. That's 26. They go by the names of 1776 PAC, Council for Garden State Families, Arise New Jersey, Moms for Liberty, and the newest one that's active in our town is called New Jersey Fresh Faced Schools. And generally the tactic they take, I call it 3 Ds and an I. They denigrate, they defame, and they distract, and then they resort to intimidation upon anyone who does not agree with their position. We're faced with a situation where we have a very unlevel playing field in this state. We have tens of millions of dollars being poured into the state to promote non-partisan school boards, biased school boards. And on the other side, we have what? Concerned parents, and perhaps some advocates. It's not a fair fight because it's so unlevel. And that's why I and a number of other professionals formed an organization called the New Jersey Coalition for Protection of Public Education. And it is a representative framework. It has been in existence for a month and a half, and we have representatives from 60-plus municipalities attempting to level the playing field. And we have organizations collaborating with us, such as the NJEA Committee for Honest Education. There's no one behind me, but I might just have the additional time to finish.
I'm sorry, that's your time.
In the past, you've allowed people to come up twice.
Yes, I will allow you to come up again. I would like a legal opinion from our council. Your last statement was a political advertisement.
It is not. It is a nonpartisan organization.
He has the right to begin the speech, but it did seem to take on a political tone, and I would caution the board to be careful about getting into that area.
I will merely just explain what the organizations do, and it is nonpartisan.
I think he's had his time. That we're fine.
He is entitled to a second 3 minutes.
Yes, until our policy is officially changed.
Yes.
He has the right to get up again with those
Please proceed.
concerns stated.
Carefully.
Is there anyone else?
Okay. Just to give you an idea of what the organization is doing. And as I said, it is supported by many organizations in the state on both the left side of the aisle and the right side of the aisle, and nonpartisan, because we invite everyone to the table, no matter what side they come from. We're providing education to parents in order that parents are provided with truthful facts and not provided with misleading information. And I'm not saying who's giving misleading information. We just want to make sure that parents know the facts. We run roadshow educational programs where we provide parents with the facts about the new health and fitness curriculum. Not the hearsay about what it's supposed to be about, but an actual presentation that provides a grade-by-grade level, element-by-element information on the specific element and how it's implemented in class. So instead of parents being told that their children are being told about sex acts in K through 2, we explain to them that the gender education curriculum says boys and girls, boys like to play with trucks and girls like to play with dolls. But it's okay if girls want to play with dolls and boys want to play, with trucks and boys want to play with dolls, because everyone can play with what any toys they want. And when you go to visit friends, some of their families may have a mom and dad, but some may have 2 moms, and some may have 2 dads, and some may have a grandmother and a mother. But you know what? All those families love each other just as much. And that's what our K through 2 gender curriculum is about. So that's what our organization does. We provide facts, and we provide information and education to parents. And we're supported by many organizations. And the last thing that we do is we have a legislative agenda to protect boards from nonpartisan attacks and preserve the nonpartisan nature of New Jersey school board elections, because they're under attack, because certain parties have set up web pages where they're going to support and fund and run campaigns for candidates who abide by their political views. And that's not what school boards are about. And that's what school board members are about. School board members have one primary purpose, and that's to protect our children and make sure that they are provided with the best education possible. That's what the coalition is about. We're here to support that at every level, county and state. Thank you.
So you don't want to move to close, Madam President? You on top of this tonight, Ms. Huh? Yeah, I got someone to say. Anywhere.
Excuse me.
Can I get a second?
Got a second. Old business, please. Mr. Sapples.
I have 3 items to bring up, old business. Number one, at the previous meeting, Dr. Tovak had mentioned a possible retreat for the bond referendum. So if we can get that on the calendar, perhaps set up for, discuss it for next week, so we can vote on it next week, in 2 weeks, sorry.
Go ahead. Yes.
So actually, so we talked about one possible date that seemed to work well based on all the different improvements, being June 14th. So that's just one date.
Is that the date of our next meeting?
No, it's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday, so it's not a Thursday, that's the one issue. There was a lot of things going on, so, but we also have this timeline coming up that we heard from consultants about the lead time necessary, so on and so forth, so it would probably be important to get this going. So that was the one date that was shared with the board president and vice president. And so, at least from their perspective, it seemed okay.
During the day or at night?
It was an evening.
Yeah.
So like a retreat, and we would set it up probably at the garden and probably the other side of town. And just look ahead like that, like we did in our last retreat in December.
Second, it's going to be a year where we invited, the board invited Mr. Tamika Reese to do a presentation on No Place for Hate 2.0. And the prior board had said it would take 2 years to roll this out. So in the interest of transparency and accountability, if we can provide an update as to what has been implemented, what won't be implemented, we could provide it to the public. And then number 3, thank you, Dr. Tovak, for mentioning a timeline today for the health and physical education curriculum to be rolled out to 2nd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, and grade 4. But I think September is too late for the parents to take a look at. A lot of parents are making decisions right now as to the appropriateness of the proposed curriculum and whether or not they would put their children in a yeshiva, in a parochial school, or are there other options. So in the interest of efficiencies and saving money and time for the teachers and administrators and the education committee, and given our Governor Murphy directed the State Department of Education to take a look at these guidelines, it's alarmed him, and given comments at the previous meeting, they mentioned Garwood Board of Ed, so I did some research there, and I believe, I would like the board to join me and I would like to make a motion to propose a resolution to reject the NJSLS proposed curriculum for the physical education, health and physical education.
I'll second. Legal, thank you. Legal opinion.
Well, anyone, the board member can make a motion. If it's seconded, then it goes to discussion. You have options. You consider to table it. You consider to vote on it. So,
Discussion.
What does this resolution say?
So the resolution would be to reject the NJSLS proposal under 2020 NJSLS CHPE, the standard that set forth that these are extreme and age inappropriate, that was adopted by the State Board of Education for 2022-2023.
Thank you. Through you, Madam President, may I ask the attorney a question?
Certainly.
Mr. Gephardt?
yes.
Is it an ethics violation to violate the laws of the state of New Jersey, which we took an oath to uphold?
Yes, but separate issue, that deals with statutes, regulations, constitutional provisions, things of that sort. Here where
We're
you're
bound by the
developing,
laws of the state of New Jersey.
here where you're developing a curriculum, there is discretion for a board to determine what aspects of it
He's
that they
asking
want.
us to reject it outright.
Yeah, I think we could
That's not the
fully
same as
reject.
tweaking.
Why, yes.
That's
I
my
mean,
question.
it
Can the
is
board reject it outright without violating the law?
not the entire situation
Exactly.
there. And
So-
I would say with the Garwood
I want the board to
situation,
know that.
it was specific about 3 or 4 terms that they had a problem with, that they did not want to.
I have an issue with the same terms, and my understanding is the Garwood Board of Education had a 7-2 vote in favor of this proposal, similar proposal, and that the penalty is just -4% on the QSEC.
Mr. Patel?
Can I, if you mind, can I ask you a question in regards to this? When you were talking about the update on the curriculum for September, is that for it to be implemented for the 2022-2023 school year or the 2023-2024 school year?
It would be for upcoming school year.
We shared a timeline for later in the year. They're trying
The
to.
other thing-
Yeah, that's,
It's not
I
going to be
didn't-
taught in September.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
in September.
So the other part about it is that in the end, you have a set of standards in place. So you have the 2014 revisions, that's what we have now. So what I assume you're talking about is just retaining the current standards
Correct.
and then just not moving ahead with the 2020 revisions.
The 2020, yes, the 2020 NJSLS CHB.
And if,
Yes, go ahead.
sorry, and if we were, because this is in such early stages of the development, if we were to stay with the current standards, 2014 standards for the next school year, what would be the repercussions in regards to that?
The repercussions would be if you're not following the current New Jersey student standards. So would that mean, it would certainly mean a loss of funds on PSAC, which, that's an issue. But it would also mean potentially a loss of state aid. It would mean potentially the governor stepping in and, ultimately, he would probably have something to say about something that would be such a direct contradiction to what the state has already determined moving forward.
Staff certifications,
Well,
because
that
you have to uphold the law as well.
we are in a difficult situation where we have an obligation to adhere to what's required in the state of New Jersey, or what is required in the law. And so that would be a very difficult situation to be placed in.
Excuse me, I'm sorry for jumping the line as it were. Mrs. Reichman gave us a very good calendar idea of what the proposed changes look like for the coming school year. Thing is, yes, the state is asking us to adhere to the guidelines they put out, statutes they're putting out. However, our district hasn't even had an opportunity to digest what that means to what we already have in place. And I would like Mrs. Reichman to say a few words about the plan that was presented to the Education Committee this evening, which may help the board inform its decision.
Sure. We always follow a process. We don't like to pull teachers out of classrooms at the end of the year because we have so much that's happening in the schools at the end of the year. It's also difficult to secure subs, and we've had many out who were sick. We have a large number of teachers. You've seen by previous agendas where we put teachers for summer curriculum writing. Every summer, we bring our writers together. At the end of the summer, early fall, we present all the updates to the education curriculum, and then everybody has a chance to review them. For this, since it's a sensitive topic, we've done a lot of research And obviously, we're waiting to see what other, we collaborate with other curriculum consortiums. So we have just an idea and are able to see what other resources are out there. We made a decision not to purchase a resource, but to internally develop our own lessons. So this way, they can be very simplistic. A determination was made because there was concern expressed about the timeline for 8th grade. There's really only one lesson. It would be embedded in the health curriculum. The health curriculum is 1 quarter for each group of students as they cycle through. We would put it in the last week of the quarter, and students would be able to opt out of that lesson. For grades 2 and 5, we would embed the lesson in the 3rd trimester, so that's probably around this time next year. So there'd be ample time for review, for revisions, for updates, to respond to questions. The parents would also have an opportunity to view those lessons, share feedback, and opt out if they would not like their children to participate. Again, it would be reduced to very few simplistic lessons. But this gives us time to prepare. It gives everyone ample time to review, ask questions, seek input from the community, and give parents an opportunity to make decisions about whether or not they'd like their child to participate. And at that point, things may change. So putting it off to the later part of the year is probably the best way to give people ample time, because you express that as a concern.
Dr. Tobak wanted to add something.
Yeah, just quickly, I certainly understand your concern, and perhaps there are some people in the community who are considering their options, but I also think that it would be helpful to kind of, for the entire community to understand that rather than reacting to what is sort of this fire burning across the state, there's an opportunity to basically, for the sake of the community, to kind of tone things down a little bit in terms of this discussion, and understand that the committee is not interested in taking what are these strict learning standards and converting them into a curriculum that would divide or upset the community. In other words, there's going to be a certain sensitivity that's given, and then this comes back to the board anyway. So, I mean, ultimately, you would decide whether this curriculum moves ahead. But there's a way that we can go through this. As Mr. Reichman said, there's really what we're talking about here is, in the end, when you add it all together, a few grade levels and a few lessons. That's it. So we're not talking about like a year of time or like months where kids would be in a classroom learning about things that parents would be objecting to. We're talking about a small number of situations where students would be exposed, kind of maybe a little bit more of an example of what we have now, the 4th grade lesson. That's about it. So it's not this, it's an undertaking, but it's not a massive undertaking, and the net result will be something I think that the community will be accepting of. But you have to give the educators time. And again, the other decision is made. Yes, I understand there's people who might be saying, well, I'm going to consider my options, but in the end, does it make sense based on that issue to pull a number of people out of classrooms, particularly at this time of the year, when everyone is counting on each other to basically be at their job and do their thing at the end of the year? It's a tough time to do that. So that would require a number of people being pulled out of classrooms, and at what cost, and what would the benefit be? So those are just some of the decisions that are some things we consider administratively when we look at what is the best way to handle this situation. So I think that, like you said, when you add it together, there will be a good solution to it, and it doesn't need to be a situation where there's ethics violations or anything like that. Just we can move ahead, but you have to give us a little time.
So another reason for my proposal, and I take comfort in what Ms. Reichman said and what you said, is the administrative burden. So we could be looking at thousands of opt-outs and hundreds of calls and emails saying, I didn't know this happened today. I didn't know the curriculum was going to be brought up today, and my son and child, listened to this, and it was inappropriate for their age or extreme.
We're going to, I shared with the Education Committee, we're going to develop a simple Google form. So a parent would, of a 2nd grader, would have a drop-down. You'd actually be able to link to the lessons right there, and you would have the opportunity right there to opt out. And again, the timeline is for elementary, to have it at the later end this time next year.
So not only would parents be able to see the curriculum, but they would see the actual lesson material that the kids would be taught. So it's even more specific.
That's where they get paid the big bucks. It was one step ahead of us.
Okay. This is
So-
what, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. We get,
Yeah, I had more so of a legal question. So when we're adapting the curriculum, do we have to adapt everything the way they state, or do we have some ways, you know, like in the Garwood, that they had made certain words that, or certain topics that they weren't going to,
So the one thing that happened at the state board meeting on the 4th is the commissioner strongly defended the new health and PE standards and said there will be no review, that everything is age appropriate, but it's not our problem anyway. It's the issue for the local districts to convert things that are in these standards to something in the form of curriculum that is acceptable at each local community. So in other words, the state has a set of standards and the district has to convert that into a curriculum for the teachers to use. So, like I said, I know much has been made about these standards, but what they actually end up looking like in practice, there is some leeway. And like I said, there's a way of doing it that doesn't have to cause a lot of turmoil in the community.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just want to say, I think we all need to take a step back, allow people that we hire, wonderful education professionals, do what they do best. They understand their role, and they understand our community, and they know what needs to happen here. And we don't need the ACLU coming in here to sue us. We don't need people filing ethics complaints. We don't need any of that, because none of that's going to ultimately be necessary. We don't need to administer the schools or interfere in the process. They will do it, and they will do it correctly. And there will be plenty of time for people to opt out of a one-quarter class.
one period.
One period.
One
Out of
period,
the entire
three
school
lessons,
year.
3 total lessons.
It's not like we're going to be teaching this ad nauseum, morning, noon, and night. And what we do teach, as Dr. Toback said, we have leeway. So I trust them. I've seen them develop curriculum in the past, and we've never had these problems. I don't think we should get involved in the hype that's out there, where, you know, people think we're gonna have sex classes and show pornography in our schools, because that's not even close to what's on the table. So it's my opinion that we need to do our job, which is to let them do their job, because they will present that curriculum to us, and it will be age appropriate, and parents will have plenty of notice to opt out and decide whether or not they think that's right for their child.
Yes, Mr. Fontaine.
This is probably more appropriate for you or Dr. Tovac, is the timeline. Do you see that changing at all, or any changes coming from the state in regards to, or do you think that that's now in stone?
So basically, the only thing that they shared is by the end of grade 2, you're required to teach this. By the end of grade 5, by the end of grade 8, simple vocabulary. There's nothing complex or detailed that was provided for us. So
I'm just curious, because I know you were saying, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, is by September to have that for our review and everything. By that time, we're moving into market period 1. I just didn't know if the state wanted everything done by September for us to have a review, or...
they don't review. The compliance piece is going through our committees and then having the board review and approval of curriculum.
Thank you.
Until the end
Does
of the year.
this answer a lot of your questions, Mr.
Yeah.
Gonzalez?
I mean, it's helpful, it provides me a little bit more comfort. However, I would look forward to taking a vote on the motion. And I don't know if you need clarification on what the motion would be, essentially what Garwood's had out there, which is to reject the NJSLS 2020 NJSLS CHPE. The standards set forth are extreme and age inappropriate that were adopted by the State Board of Education for 2022-2023.
trying to make sure that you're stating that we should, that we, Board of Education, should reject the latest state of New Jersey physical education and health requirements.
Correct.
Okay. Any more discussion?
See where everybody sits. Give a second.
I have a question. In its entirety or specific?
The extreme and age
Okay, we
inappropriateness of
can
it.
vote on something that isn't written down. He's speaking in an abstract.
Okay.
Yeah, I might
Yeah, but
suggest
I'm
at
not
this
gonna-
point, I think there is confusion. I do think that it
Oh, I
is
know what
pretty,
you're saying.
I do think it is pretty broad too, just from a lawyer's perspective, a blanket restriction. It might be appropriate for the board to consider tabling and sending it to committees to try and get some more detail
Well,
on it.
I appreciate that, but I believe that Mr. Prosakos would like to take a vote tonight. That's why I would like the
Just
motion.
recommend. I can only recommend.
I know, to be put in a form that's very succinct for each board member to consider before they vote. So,
So I have resolved the Wayne Township reject the NJSLS standards as it applies. Am I good so far?
2020.
NJSLS standards.
Comprehensive health and
Comprehensive health. For the
for the 20,
20.
22, 23 school year.
Yeah. The standards were 2020 and JSLS CHPE.
that's perfect.
Okay, so that's.
Okay.
So that standards,
So right now what I have is, with the chair, resolve the Wayne Township Board of Ed reject the NJSLS standards, comprehensive health and physical education for 2022-2023 school year for the.
so the standards set forth are extreme and age inappropriate.
Okay, now I just need, now am I adding that?
It's simple.
Right.
Yes, no, maybe so.
It's a statement rather than a
Resolution.
Okay, anyone would like Mr. Moffett to repeat that, please? Are we all set? Okay, so a vote of, wait a minute, I just want to,
Well, it was motion by Mr. Prosakos and a second by Mrs. Hunter.
right,
Okay, if
So-
it's discussed, or a point where you can call roll.
no, yes, I'm just saying, so if you vote yes, you are rejecting. If you vote no, you're accepting the standards, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Are we, I guess discussion's over here?
Yeah.
All right, for me, I just, okay, whatever.
So call roll.
Yes, please.
Mrs. Kazan,
No.
Mrs. Kumar,
No.
Mr. Pavlak,
Yes.
to come back to,
Yeah, come back. Thank you.
Mr. Prosakos,
Yes.
Mrs. Wente,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
No.
Mr. Fatal,
You can pass something and still think.
Mrs. Sputter,
No.
back to Mr. Pavlak.
My issue is that I don't see lesson plans in front of me. The lesson plan is what drives what is taught in the classroom. The curriculum is the big picture. The lesson plan is what's going to be taught in the classroom. That is what I want to see. So I'm abstaining.
Mr. Fatale?
What's the vote at?
2 yeas, 4 noes, and 1 abstention.
It's not gonna carry.
See, I have the same problem without seeing the lesson plan.
Which we will eventually vote on.
Right.
Yeah, which we
Yeah.
will vote on.
In this
So
is-
premature,
Well, that's, I think we got ahead of ourselves right now, tonight.
and we're putting ourselves in danger.
And I'm afraid of the legality of everything. And I have to agree with Mr. Geppert that we probably should have tabled this until we had something a little bit more. So I have to abstain until I see more in front of me.
Motion fails.
I'd like to make a second motion
No.
to bring this to the appropriate committee.
What's the appropriate?
It is at a committee.
Okay.
That's what we do.
Yes.
Yeah, so on the topic of old business then, I would recommend that we try to move the timeline where it gets posted online and the parents have access to end of August.
You know, defer to our expert,
We don't administer the schools.
Mrs. Reichman. When do you feel that the lessons will be available? Do you have a good,
I could work to bring them back to the Ed Committee for our August meeting.
Well, wouldn't they be there for the August meeting only because in September we would be releasing them to the parents for?
We can bring them to the August meeting.
But I'm saying we would plan on anyway in September releasing them to the parents for the survey anyway, so when they already, as per our plan, be in the August meeting.
Assuming that we were satisfied with what.
Yeah, but that was kind of the plan already, if that makes sense.
That's a reasonable time.
Yeah.
so we'll see them at the August meeting?
We'll bring them to the August side.
Okay,
So that's a motion?
so,
That's what we can do it.
Ah,
no,
That's what we're doing. That was the plan.
all right.
It's still.
okay, good. New business. Mrs. Kazan.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank the mayor and Councilwoman Ritter for a wonderful event I attended last evening, the raising of the pride flag in Wayne. I think it was a giant step forward for our community. The speeches were amazing. The faith-based community came out, 2 particular reverends who spoke about their churches being open and inclusive. And that's the first time I think I've ever heard that mentioned publicly, where these churches are making a complete turn and understanding that everyone should be welcome in a community and in a house of worship. And I would certainly like to see a recognition of Pride Month by this Board of Ed, to recognize their contributions to our school community. We have LGBTQ students and staff, and that their contribution should not go unnoticed, and Pride Month for them should not go unnoticed. So I'm very proud to be a resident of Wayne today. It was a wonderful event. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion
I'll leave it to the superintendent and you to decide that, Madam President. I won't administer the schools. It's a suggestion.
to? Thank you. Okay, any other new business? Okay. I have a comment to make. I want to thank administration for work on the additional school safety that's being done. And it's unfortunate that we've reached a tipping point that has forced us to further options that I never thought we would have to get to. So I thank you for all your hard work. And I thank my fellow board members members for their support. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.